this episode of the Hiking and Backpacking with Goose podcast. In this episode, I'll hike the Old Sugarlands Trail in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. But first, a quick update on things going on with me. My garden hasn't done all that well this year. My potatoes did well, but I only planted a small bed. Guess I'll scale that up next year. I have had some Roma tomatoes to harvest, but my other tomato plants haven't done that well. My squash and cucumbers have yielded some fruit, but nowhere near as good as they did last year. My blackberry and raspberry bushes yielded a small amount of fruit, but they're very young, and I expect more out of them in the coming years. The black walnut trees started dropping nuts in July, but from looking at what is on the tree now, I think there will be a lot more. I'll process the first batch of black walnuts in the very near future. FYI, I'm recording this podcast in August, but it will likely not be edited and published until sometime in the fall due to some other time commitments that I have. The summer has been very hot and dry, and we still have more to go. However, the long-term forecast looks a lot better in the coming weeks. It should be wetter with more moderate temperatures. The dry summer confirmed my need to expand my rudimentary rain capture system for my raised beds. I plan to work on that over the winter. We've had several visitors over the last few months, and we almost always take them through the Smokies for sightseeing, and we take some of them hiking. Recently, we took some old friends hiking to Cataract Falls. I covered this on Season 3, Episode 2, when I hiked to Cataract Falls, as well as the Fighting Creek Nature Trail. These trails start right behind the Sugarlands Visitor Center and are very easy and convenient hikes. On this occasion, we only hiked to Cataract Falls and back, so I was able to get a more accurate distance measurement. In case you're interested, it's 0.98 of a mile from the Visitor Center to the falls and back. Now that's a short and easy hike. We also hiked on Jake's Creek Trail to Avent Cabin, which I recently covered on Season 4, Episode 10. If you remember, I got a little lost on that hike, so I could only estimate the mileage based on some website reviews I had read for pre-hike research and just kind of guesstimating. This time I was able to get a very accurate measure on the distance. From the parking lot in Daisytown to Avent Cabin and back was a distance of 2.81 miles. The people hiking with me on this occasion were occasional but not frequent hikers, and they informed me that it was more difficult than I had led them to believe. I think it was more about elevation gain than distance. The total elevation gain was 850 feet. On to the hike. When looking for hikes, I try to mix it up a bit to keep things interesting. There's a small group of trails that are very popular and heavily hiked in the Smokies, mainly due to inclusion on the park website and popularity on hiking websites and apps. But others are less popular and therefore less traveled. This episode is on one of those trails, the Old Sugarlands Trail. This hike is very close to the Sugarlands Visitor Center, but has fallen out of popularity for some unknown reason. Sugarlands was a community prior to the creation of the park. The first European settlers arrived in this area in the early 1800s. The descendants of those early settling families lived in log cabins until the early 1900s. Most of the people of this area were subsistence farmers. It was located pretty close to Gatlinburg, and legend has it was a haven for moonshiners. I'm not sure if that's true, but it makes for a pretty good background story. The trailhead to the Old Sugarlands Trail is located very close to the Sugarlands Visitor Center. There's a small pullout on Newfound Gap Road, only a few hundred feet from the Visitor Center. If there's no parking when I arrive there, I'll park at the Visitor Center and walk the short distance to the trailhead. I'll hike to Cherokee Orchard Road and back, which should be a total distance of 7.9 miles with an elevation gain of about 1,200 feet. Most of the trail is on an old roadbed, so trail conditions should be good. Along the way, I'll pass Bullhead Trail and maybe Rainbow Falls Trail, which I hiked on Season 2, Episode 9. Both of these trails lead to Mount LeConte. I'm told that the first couple of miles have minimal elevation gain and that there's a stream running very close to the trail in this section of the hike. I also expect that I'll likely pass over a few footbridges during my hike. My research also indicates that I should pass the remnants of an old CCC camp during my hike. The Civilian Conservation Corps, aka CCC, was a work/welfare program established by President Franklin Roosevelt during the Depression when unemployment spiked to all-time highs. There were more than 20 camps employing 4,000 men in the Smoky Mountains area. They engaged in reforestation projects, and some of the trails that we hike on today were built by the CCC. And many of the older rustic footbridges that are still there were also built by them. They also engaged in larger scale projects like building a large arch stone bridge in the Elkmont area of the park. You can see that bridge today if you travel to that area. They also built fire roads and fire towers throughout the area. I'm really looking forward to today's hike in this historic area of the park. Well, that's all for now. I'll check back in during the halftime report. It's the halftime report on the Old Sugarlands Trail. Well, I made it to Cherokee Orchard just fine. I'm taking my break very close to a rapids nearby, as you can hear. I decided to backtrack slightly since this upper trailhead is close to a road and a parking lot, and it was pretty noisy there with the traffic. I started my hike early this morning to avoid thunderstorms that are likely this afternoon. About a quarter of a mile into my hike, I passed a couple headed down the trail that said they had just seen a bear 100 yards up the trail. But when I got there, I didn't see anything. So I guess I missed the bear today. Darn. The trail conditions today are muddy in some places because of a storm last night. But most of the trail is actually very good shape, and because it used to be a road, there's a lot of old gravel and stuff on it. It's been overcast today with temperatures in the 70s, so it's been good hiking weather. So far, the only wildlife I've seen was a turkey trotting down the trail in front of me. I'm sitting in a very comfy hiking chair that I brought with me today. It's hard to describe it, but it's compact, and it does have a back to it, unlike some other hiking chairs. I threw it in my day pack today to add some weight for training purposes, but it sure is coming in handy for this break. The first half mile is a foot trail, but it quickly turns into an old road, and much of this trail is also a horse trail. I had to rock hop across one stream early in the hike, but there were no other streams that I had to cross by foot. There's not much elevation gain in the first mile of this hike. The second and third miles have most of the elevation gain. The rest of the hike, after the third mile that is, was kind of up and down, so it was pretty comfortable. Along the way, I passed several other trails, including Grassy Branch Trail, two horse trails that appeared to be unused and overgrown with signs that are rotten away, and Bullhead Trail. When you reach Cherokee Orchard and the end of this trail, you'll find that the Rainbow Falls Trail intersects directly with it. At Bullhead Trail, there was a closed sign that indicated that the trail is undergoing rehabilitation, and there were 3 pickup trucks parked there and another pickup truck parked a little ways down the trail. The rapids that you hear is very close to the end of the trail. There's an Indiana Jones style log footbridge there for hikers, but parked vehicles have to ford the stream. This trail is obviously closed to public vehicles. In the last mile, somewhere, I found a long stone wall, but I didn't explore it because it was overgrown and I didn't want to get any ticks on me today. So far, so good. Trail conditions are good on this trail. The weather's nice today, and the elevation gain is reasonable for a moderate hike. Well, that's all for now. I'll catch up with you on the wrap-up. It's time for the wrap-up. Shortly after the halftime report, as I was packing up my mini chair, I saw a fellow fly fishing in the nearby stream. It didn't look like he was catching anything. I also saw another wild turkey nearby. Immediately after I started my return hike, I had a conversation with a fellow covered in dirt who was hiking in the opposite direction. He had just come from Bullhead Trail and had been working on the trail rehabilitation there. He was a volunteer, but he told me that there was a professional team spearheading the project. I did a little trail work many years ago on a side trail leading to the Appalachian Trail. It was back-breaking work. He also told me that it was a 2-year project. So if you're planning on hiking Bullhead Trail in 2025 or 2026, you should check the park website first. The website currently indicates that the trail is open on Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, and federal holidays only. At about 3/4 of a mile down the trail, I ran into 3 fellows hiking at a very quick clip. I spoke to them briefly and continued on down the trail. As I made my way further down the trail, the sun started to break through the clouds and the temperature started to rise, but it was still very comfortable. Since walking downhill is easier than uphill, my pace was pretty quick on the return trip. I did try to keep an eye open for any remains of structures off the side of the trail, but I didn't see any. At the higher elevations, if I looked really, really hard, I could see other mountains through the dense vegetation. If you hike this trail in the winter, when the leaves are off the trees, you might get some long-distance views, but I'm really not sure about that. During brief periods in both directions of today's hikes, those pesky no-see-em bugs were aggressively flying in my face. I even inhaled a couple of them. I'd meant to put my head net in the bag before I left, but I was in a hurry and I forgot it. Hopefully I'll remember next time. As I got closer to the trailhead on Newfound Gap, I passed a couple of families as well as a guy carrying a fire axe. I guess he was headed up to work on Bullhead Trail. I made it back to the Goosemobile in short order. The temperature at the trailhead was still a very comfortable 79 degrees. As of today, Newfound Gap Road past the Sugarlands Visitor Center is closed due to a landslide and road collapse. By the time this episode is posted, I'm hopeful that it will be fully repaired. The last year has been really tough in the Smokies, with Hurricane Helene and some other severe storms taking their tolls on the roads, streams, campgrounds, and some of the trails. Hopefully, the coming year will be more kind to the park. My hike today was 8.4 miles with a total elevation gain of 1,404 feet. I consider this a moderate hike due to the elevation gain and length. The trail conditions are excellent in most places except the areas of the trail that are actively being used as horse trail. In those areas, it can be a muddy mess occasionally. As with any trail, if there are heavy recent rains, the trail conditions could decline rapidly. I enjoyed my hike today and would recommend this hike. However, there are no grand views, just a nice walk in the woods with a cool water feature near the end. I've got a feeling this trail will regain popularity while Newfound Gap Road is closed, because that road is the primary route that people staying in Gatlinburg or Pigeon Forge use to get to some of the more popular trails. The Old Sugarlands Trail is unaffected by that closure. One quick note, as I was researching today's hike, I found many references to things that I didn't see during my hike on the trail today. I've noticed that some of the information you might find when searching the web for trail information can be quite out of date, especially for less traveled trails. So be aware of that if you're searching hikes and planning hikes via the web. If you'd like my opinion of any specific hike, then I would recommend searching my episodes. Also, if you want to reach out to me via Instagram, as some of you have already done, I might also be able to point you in the right direction. If you enjoy this podcast, please subscribe to it and give it a good rating on the podcast platform that you use. The algorithms look for that, and it helps to expand listenership, which helps me to spread the word. Also, please recommend it to your friends who enjoy hiking and outdoor adventures. Photos and a video taken during today's hike can be found on Instagram, where my name is Goosa Hikin. That's GOOSEAHIKIN. A final thought. As always, enjoying the great outdoors is most certainly enjoyable and fun. But please don't engage in strenuous physical activities that are beyond your capabilities or your physical condition. Make sure you're familiar with the wildlife you could encounter on your journey so you can be prepared. Also, make sure that you wear weather-appropriate clothing, carry an emergency medical kit, water, and a map, and always stay on the trail.